My heart pounds like a drum against my chest. Moments earlier, I felt calm. Now I'm facing a deception I never anticipated. This is the tale of how my relatives attempted to claim the one spot I created for myself. Not through violence, but with grins and deceit. And how I resisted, not with yells, but with a quiet that echoed stronger than any words I could utter. The journey to Shadow Peak summit always seemed like peeling off a layer. Winding paths snaking through pine forests, my pickup's wheels buzzing on the gravel, blues tunes drifting from the radio like mist. I lowered the glass, allowing the chill wind to sting my skin and sense the burden of my existence. Expenses, due dates, constant requests fade away. That cabin, my cabin, was my sanctuary. I constructed it with my own effort. Every timber paid for by overtime hours and foregone trips. It was the single location where I wasn't indebted to anybody. Just me, the peak, and a few days to feel liberated. I pulled into the open area, wheels crunching on fallen leaves, and halted abruptly. A battered blue Jeep sat near the porch. A scooter propped against the banister, its rims coated in dirt. The entryway stood slightly open, leaking sounds, crisp, known out of place. My keys dug into my skin as I exited, the atmosphere heavy with pine and another scent like charred bread lingering in the gust. Within, my mom, Maria, was shifting my fabric seats as if preparing for a picture session. My sibling, Sophia, marched in from the storage, carrying a sack of sugar and a jug of juice. Her child, Mia, hopped after, holding a shiny dragon figure. Maria glanced up, her grin slim as a fractured dish. Diego, she stated, tone even as a locked gate. Didn't expect you to arrive. This is my cabin, I replied, each syllable heavy like rock I was too weary to throw. Sophia kept going, simply passed Mia a drink container and continued stocking my supplies in my storage. I surveyed the space. A knapsack slumped near the hearth. A child chair messed up the tabletop. My albums, the ones I'd organized by issue date, were pushed away for a stack of drawing pads. I only required the few days, I mentioned, my tone tight like a cable about to break. Maria crossed her limbs. Sophia and Mia require more than a few days. They're settling here. You have your urban work, Diego. This spot suits them more. The phrases didn't strike. They dropped dense and icy like a stream dragging me down. Sophia agreed, unconcerned, as if she was noting the scenery. It's theirs from now, Maria declared. You don't require it. I retreated, my shoes scuffing the wooden planks I'd smoothed myself. The key in my grasp seemed like an artifact, worthless. I got into my pickup, and by the time the motor rumbled, I resolved I wouldn't plead. Not immediately. Back in my urban apartment, the hum of vehicles was a faint pain. I rested on my sofa, the key still heated from my hold, and flung it into a compartment where it rattled against stray bolts and a worn image of Dad. He'd passed away half a decade ago, but his tone still resided in my device. I replayed his final message from the care facility, his phrases coarse but distinct. You've got a backbone like iron, Diego. Don't let them wear it down. I shut my lids, the town's rhythm leaking through the barriers. He'd have halted them before they entered, but I allowed them to step inside, unload, seize what wasn't theirs. I showed them I'd yield. My device's light pierced the gloom as I browsed, not for amusement but for evidence. A record I'd begun last season, not of aims but obligations. $9,000 for Maria's health costs. $6,200 for Sophia's fresh housing fee. The cabin, every penny I saved over a decade. Drink outings when Maria's purse was absent. Days minding Mia so Sophia could relax. No item said appreciation. No note said we notice you. They noticed me, however, not as a child, not as a kin, just as the person who always covered. The previous occasion I refused, when Sophia requested $4,000 for a getaway, Maria labeled me self-centered. Sophia messaged, "You've got no offspring, no spouse. What's your cash for?" I viewed her notes now, the terms stinging like new cuts. Maria's recent message, "They need it more. You're never present." Not an inquiry, a verdict. The cabin was my haven, a site where I didn't have to respond to anyone, and they'd seized it, presuming I'd accept the robbery because I always did. They were mistaken. I wasn't merely quiet. I was observing. I launched my computer and entered the title of the attorney who'd managed the cabin's deed, Laura Kane. All fitted coats and sharp inquiries. She didn't wince when I pushed a binder across her table. Titles, invoices, every board and tile I funded. I want it secured, I stated. No one else gains a right. She assented, turning through the sheets. Relatives, she inquired without raising her gaze. Sort of. We can shift it to a charitable fund, she suggested. Fresh Horizon Group, perhaps. They offer housing for uprooted households. You retain permanent entry. They can't alter it without a court fight, they'll fail. I breathed out, the pressure in my torso loosening sufficiently to inhale. Record all she advised. Messages, conversations, any action they take, I touched my device. I've got a catalog. Laura's gaze lifted, a glint of admiration in them. Excellent. We'll triumph this with proof, not feelings. I rose, the binder less heavy than it had been in ages. Outdoors, the breeze was fresh and I felt firm. Not furious, just finished. I contacted Ramon, my buddy who reasons in wires and setups. I need the cabin to resist, I informed him. He didn't question why, just appeared with a box of gadgets and a smile like he'd anticipated this. We devoted a day connecting the cabin like a breathing entity. Detectors in each nook. Illuminations arranged to flash like a tempest. Audio units concealed in the beams, prepared to murmur or bellow. Force mats beneath the planks, set to activate water jets or signals. Ramon captured my tone, altered it to resemble the cabin itself. You are not permitted. Depart immediately. We examined it. Navigating the areas, the cabin arousing like a hunter. Illuminations throbbed crimson, then pale. Dark forms twisting over the surfaces. My tone resonated deep and persistent. Ramon adjusted a detector, laughing. This is merely an intelligent residence trial, officially. Nothing unlawful about a cabin that guards itself. I placed a plaque by the entrance. Intelligent protection enabled. Proceed at personal peril. Elegant, expert, impregnable. They returned precisely on schedule. Midday on the weekend, the program's real-time view displayed Sophia emerging from the Jeep, a fruit dish in her grasp like she was organizing an event. Her spouse, Marco, carried a box of playthings, their children pulling bags. Maria emerged finally, examining the stairs like she already possessed them. She noticed the plaque, chuckled and pulled it off, hurling it into the brush. This belongs to us now, she announced, audible enough for the peak to catch. They didn't tap, just utilized a key I wasn't aware they possessed. I observed from my apartment, limbs folded, beverage cooled. The program shone, anticipating. I permitted them to get comfortable, let them believe they'd succeeded. At 2:03 in the morning, Maria directed toward the restroom. My finger lingered, then initiated start. The cabin awakened. Illuminations blazed scarlet, throbbing like an alert. Audio units thundered. Unapproved entry identified. Water jets whispered, drenching the grounds. Sophia yelled from above, her children's sobs cutting through the stream. Marco struggled with the main entrance, but the clever bolt maintained just sufficiently for fear to seize them. Dark forms moved over the surfaces, figures Ramon's device projected, figures that didn't correspond to anyone present. Maria stumbled, her cup breaking as my tone saturated the cabin. This is not your residence. Sophia seized her, tugging her toward the storage where illuminations wavered like a fading beat. They forced the entrance ajar, trembling without footwear, the children weeping. They rushed from the open area, wheels ejecting soil, and I didn't glance rearward. At 6:45 in the morning, 2 officers inspected the cabin. No compelled access, no individuals there. Set-up mistake, their document stated. My device vibrated at 7:20. Maria's tone quivering. What have you done? I drank my beverage, the town awakening beyond. Nothing, I replied. I wasn't present. I ended the call and restarted the setup. A fortnight afterward, they positioned opposite me at the certifier's workplace. Maria's mouth formed a rigid stripe. Sophia's fists tightened like she could restrain the reality. The certifier, Samuel, laid out the documents. I advanced one. The cabin is transferred, I declared, tone firm. Moved to Fresh Horizon Group. I possess enduring access. You possess 0. Maria's tone was keen. You'll rue this when you're isolated. I bent forward. You claimed it without permission. I simply rendered it conclusive. They departed mute, the entrance snapping closed. I endorsed the final documents and stepped outdoors. The breeze was pure, the load vanished. I traveled to the cabin that few days, leaves snapping under my wheels. Within, I removed Ramon's gadgets, detectors, illuminations, audio units, storing it aside like a section I'd concluded. The cabin was still mine once more. I prepared a drink, the pot's buzz occupying the area. I rested on the platform, Dad's ancient cup heated in my grasp, the peak shining beneath morning's glow. But there was one detail I hadn't shared with anyone. Not Ramon, not Laura, not even myself until that instant. The evening prior to starting the setup, I descended to the cabin's upper level. Beneath a grimy cover, I discovered a box of Dad's items. Inside was a notebook, his script dim but certain. Diego, if they ever seize what's yours, don't elevate your tone. Elevate your resolve. This cabin is your core. Let it battle for you. He'd understood. He'd perceived their avarice before I ever did. I wasn't boastful. I wasn't remorseful. They'd attempted to remove me from the one spot I'd erected for myself. The cabin didn't need to bellow anymore. It had expressed, and so had I. This wasn't vengeance. It was recovering.